So Trello, Slack, let's get started here. So we've talked about. I'm going to talk about Slack first, and then we'll talk about Trello last. Because definitely, in terms of the systems we're covering today, the core ones, Slack, many of you would probably already be using it or familiar with it. Trello, maybe not, and there are other project management tools certainly in addition to Trello, whether it's something like Rike or even just using a spreadsheet. There's lots of ways to get at that. Slack definitely stands out in terms of its ability to facilitate team communication effectively. And there's a bunch of reasons for that. Firstly, the user interface is really intuitive. So we're looking at the Open Democracy Project Slack. Oh, you're probably not able to see that. I'm going to share that with you. So you should be able to see it now. So we're looking at the Open Democracy Project Slack channel, which you're all more than welcome to join. And there's, I can post the link after in a follow-up on that. If you're not familiar with Slack already, you've got the ability to create channels, conversations, let's say, and people are relatively familiar with the concept of a hashtag, what that means in terms of having a conversation on a particular topic. You can have groups that are topics that are private or team-wide. So if I create a new conversation here, I could create it public for anyone in the team to view, or I could make it private. And you can direct message people within the group. Okay, so that's the basic functionality you want. All of the things many you'd likely be used to using, whether it's @ symbols to mention a person, or if you start typing a hashtag, you can mention a channel. You can do things like mention everyone in a channel by typing channel. And so that all works seamlessly. Importantly, you can add multiple teams. So you can see on the left-hand side here, I'm part of many Slack teams, so they say Civic Tech Toronto or Civic Tech Ottawa or Civic Tech Calgary. You can actually add and browse between teams, and so that makes it really usable if you're or useful if you're working across multiple campaigns, or if you're using it for one team and you need to start another or campaign, you need to start another campaign. So that's Slack. The applications are what make this tool particularly powerful. So similar to Trello, you're going to be able to connect Slack to your Google Drive. And what that allows to do things like shows a preview of the file when you there are useful shortcuts in terms of starting Hangouts and things like that. So, but you can connect to Drive, connect to Trello. And again, that comes back to the criteria why we chose these in the first place, these tools, that they're relatively standard, and they connect with everything we want to use. So let's take questions on both Slack and Trello at the same time. Here in Team Project Management Tools, window, you can see in the board here, you can see that we've got Slack getting started as an admin. And so this is how to set up Slack, how to integrate it with Google Drive, invite team members, create a Slack team. And then you've got resources for users. So getting started, setting up your profile, getting started as a user. So for example, if you're the administrator, you might want to, you're going to need a certain level of knowledge about the platform, but then in your volunteer onboarding, especially for your core team, not everybody is familiar with using these kinds of tools. So you're going to want to build in a standard onboarding process for folks that need to have access, and make sure that that they review the materials in order to get started, and so that they can fit in seamlessly and have a good experience on your campaign. So again, that comes back to hopefully illustrating how you could use a tool like Trello to track where people are at in terms of their training, because you can copy these boards for each, say, new volunteer. I'm going to move along to Trello now, because we've covered all the items for Slack and we have about 5 minutes left. So Trello, we've already talked about. You're looking at it. It's essentially a workflow tracking tool, so you can use it. There's no one way to use Trello. You can either use it horizontally, and you could create lists. The idea behind Trello is it's kind of like a sticky note, right, where people are used to managing action items with sticky notes. And so you can think of it like a card where you're going to track everything related to a particular action item or item you're planning, and then dispose of that card later when it's done. You can create checklists for an item. You could add links and attachments. Again, you can do there's great options for power-ups, which would be integrations with the tool. Again, connect it with Google Drive, with Slack. You can do things like add custom fields to the card. So it's very functional. It's also completely free, which is just incredible in terms of unlimited users. So you can add members by email or by typically by email or by name if they've already got a Trello account, and there's no limit on that. You only have to start paying if you want additional enterprise functionality. But for campaigns, I've never worked on a local campaign that needed the business version of Trello. So for all intents and purposes, it's free. It's got a great mobile app, just like Slack. So you can again use Trello by creating your cards, your action items, and then dragging them from one list to the next through to complete. You could also keep cards in the particular list. So we're looking, each of these verticals is a list, and you might have a particular set of steps you want to work through, or you could use labels on the cards in order to sort of track status if you want. So there's no one way to use it. There are all sorts of best practices for Trello. You can look on Trello, or you could just do a quick Google search. But some of the useful applications of Trello on a campaign, I'll just give you a few. It's a great place to put action items for, say, a working group. So let's say you've got your fundraising team and you're planning a fundraising event. You might want to create a Trello board for your fundraising team, and then track items related to the event. So you could see another application here, which we're using for DemocracyKit, is an editorial board. So all of our social posts. So we just sent out a newsletter yesterday. We want to send the next newsletter in 2 weeks. And you can see we've got our team members that are working on this newsletter added. We've got the steps that need to happen in order to create this newsletter. We've got a summit that we want to be involved in coming up. There's a testimonial we've gathered at different stages along the editorial board. And that's how we're using this. So again, this is a horizontal usage. You could also just keep things in a list. Importantly, you can add due dates. You can add members to each of the cards. So again, this is where you're getting into tracking those action items that sometimes in a distributed campaign where you got lots of meetings going on can otherwise fall through the cracks. So